What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P. We are back once again, and you know when you see me on your TV or on your mobile screens or on your computer screens, wherever you see me at, you know that this one thing is true, but maybe it's three things, right? Because number one, the Motor City Cats are back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not static. Number three, we want to make sure that you keep your Lions news pragmatic. So that's three things. It's not just one thing. So one thing is true. Two things are true. Three things are true. Every time you see me on your TV, every time you see me on your mobile screens, every time you see me on your computer screens, just understand that. Know that you are in for a special treat. Know that we are going to get into what we got to get into. And today is all a buzz and it's all a Twitter. And there are some things that when I put the show up, they weren't things. Now they're things. We're going to get into a little bit more of a breakdown of what we talked about as far as the list, because I just have a few more things that I want to say. And we're going to start off with the man that's on the thumbnail, Agent Zero now. Okay. He was once the electrician, which was, I mean, honestly, the best nickname in the NFL. Shout out to whoever gave him that nickname. You know what I'm saying? Shout out. Then he was Sonic, right? And these nicknames are still gonna stick, right? I'm still gonna call this man the electrician. Okay. Yeah, I'm still gonna call him Sonic. But now he's officially Agent Zero because everybody that wears the number zero, they're Agent Zero for whatever reason. Whatever. Okay. I think every team has an Agent Zero. Ours just happens to be a very prominent young player who is electrifying, which is why I call him the electrician, who's got blazing fast speed. That's why we call him Sonic, right? That is one Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is dynamic. Jahmyr Gibbs is fast becoming my second favorite running back in Lions history. I put him up there already, but then I was watching some Reggie Bush highlights the other day, and I was like, you know what I'm saying? Reggie was magnificent with the Detroit Lions. I think he gave you your first 1,000-yard back in like over 10 years or something crazy like that. It was a crazy stat. We didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher for a very long time. We didn't even have a damn 100-yard rusher, like rushing 100 yards in a game for a very long time. Reggie Bush put an end to all of that. But Jahmyr Gibbs, man, what up, though, Tactical Sport? Jahmyr Gibbs is a special player. When we talked about this before, we said that we didn't really know who Jahmyr Gibbs was. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't get all the hype. He didn't get all the praise. He didn't get all the press like Bijan did. Right? Man, just watching the film on Bijan when he was in college, I was like, man, this dude right here, man. And shout out to the Bears fan. I'm always going to tell this story. I did a video about Bijan Robinson. I was just begging the Lions, please go get this man. Please go get this man. And then when he was there, well, that's a fast forward. Let me not fast forward. Let me not skip to. I'm like, please go get this man. So then this Bears fan, and I don't remember his name. I would have to actually go back into my history of videos and see what his name was. But I think I should do that because I keep telling the story. Right. So at some point I should do that to give him his proper credit. So he goes, nah. Jahmyr Gibbs is the pick for y'all. I said, Jahmyr Gibbs? Who the hell is Jahmyr Gibbs? Right? I'm like, I don't know no Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh, running back, Alabama, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me go look at this dude. And when I looked at Jahmyr Gibbs, I was like, this is like a really fast Le'Veon Bell, right? That's what he reminded me of in college. And hopefully we will begin to see that aspect of his game. And I'm going to say this year, like he had in college, he had that patience, that just, okay, I'm gonna wait for the whole, like he would get into, and we haven't seen this too much in the league and we haven't needed to see it. But if he brings this to the NFL, I think it's game over. I think it's game over. He's already probably, he's top 3 in the NFL, right? There's Derrick Henry, there's Saquon Barkley. I think both of those guys are in front of him. But Jahmyr Gibbs, definitely the number 3 back in the NFL. I don't think that there's anyone better other than those two guys, right? You could maybe give me Alvin Kamara. You could maybe, say different people and use names like Jonathan Taylor. Like you could throw out the names that are just standard names that you say because you hear things. Right. But if you really watch the game of football and you really watch running back play, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is already averaging something crazy like 5.5 yards per carry for his career. Right now, I know his career has only been 2 years, but that is crazy for you to come out and play 2 whole seasons and you're averaging I think it's 5.2. Okay, 5.2 to 5.5. It might be 5.5 because I think Barry's career average was 5.2 yards per carry. Okay, so if you're at 5.5, you're already in rarefied air. You're already in the company of greatness, right? In your first 2 years. Now, I famously called Barry Sanders my football father. So I will not allow anyone to be compared to Barry Sanders. Jahmyr Gibbs is not Barry Sanders. He doesn't compare to Barry Sanders. Okay. There's other running backs. Can you see it here? Okay. Can you see this? And then Barry Sanders. Right. So you can see the other running backs, right? But Barry Sanders, you can't even see him. He's in the stratosphere, by his own, by himself. Right. Jahmyr Gibbs is, like I said, if he brings that style, I saw him in his college film. Go put on the highlights, go put on the tape. He would get in the open field and wait for his blockers to set up and then instantly just explode and take off. Right? Like he would just slow down and wait for blocks. Le'Veon Bell used to do that in the backfield. And then he would find a hole and then he would take off. This dude already got through the hole and then slows down in the open field to allow his blocks to set up and then takes off again. Right? So his gear shifting ability is crazy. I've never really seen that type of running before. As I said, it's like Le'Veon Bell, but faster. But Le'Veon Bell, like I said, was doing this behind the line of scrimmage. Jahmyr Gibbs also improved his pass catching. Okay. Bijan Robinson came in the league. He was a better pass catcher. Okay. He had that one hand catch against the Jaguars. I think he pinned it on his body and, it was amazing. Okay. Bijan Robinson is not a bad back. Bijan Robinson is a very good back, right? Bijan Robinson, you could call him excellent. Okay. But Jahmyr Gibbs is excellenter, right? He's more excellent than Bijan Robinson. Okay. A lot of people will say, well, Bijan Robinson had his offensive line is not as good as Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay. They do have what is his name? Lindstrom. He's the best guard in the NFL, right? They do run the ball well. I mean, they do have a two-headed monster like we do, right? With Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, and we got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Are they as good as us? No, they're not. But their production running the football, I mean, not last year, the year before last, Bijan Robinson put up numbers his rookie season, and you knew he was going to run the ball because Desmond Ridder was their quarterback. It's not like they were going to come out and throw the football a ton. They didn't have the ability to. They didn't have a quarterback. So I don't buy the argument that the Atlanta Falcons are just this moribund offense that can't do anything, and it's amazing that Bijan Robinson even gets 2 yards per carry. No. Right? That was Saquon Barkley in New York. Okay? Saquon Barkley in New York would average 2 yards per carry for the entire game. And then there would be that one carry, which would be 60, 70, 80 yards. And then that would be like, all right, now he's got 4 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Because their offensive line was terrible. That's not Bijan Robinson's situation. To put Bijan Robinson over Jahmyr Gibbs is malfeasance. Bijan Robinson has more yards than Jahmyr Gibbs, but he also has more attempts. It was the same situation in both seasons, and it's slightly more yards. It's like 50 more yards. This is a slight uptick in production. And we're talking about for 1 yard per carry more, right? If Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 1 yard per carry and you gave him 50 more carries, he would be just where Bijan Robinson is. But Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't average 1 yard per carry. I said he averages 5.5. Okay. So just let's just do the simple math. Let's do the simple math. Let's take the 0.5s out of it. What is 5 times 50? 250, right? Okay, and then you take the 0.5s. Okay, 0.5 times 50 is 25. So with Jahmyr Gibbs having the same amount of carries and his same average, he would have 275 yards more than Bijan Robinson every 50 carries. Every 50 carries. Okay? So whatever Bijan Robinson's output is in 50 carries, Jahmyr Gibbs, every time he hits 50, he would be 275 yards more than Bijan Robinson. Right? So if, let's say Jahmyr Gibbs had 100 more carries than Bijan Robinson, he would be 550 yards more. Okay? And I'm just playing the hypothetical game. I'm saying that the averages would remain the same and all these things. Okay? I don't think that you should be putting Bijan Robinson ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now they're going to be they're going to be talked about together. Okay, and PFF said this. They're going to be talked about together for the majority of their careers because they're separated by 4 picks. Bijan Robinson went number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. Jahmyr Gibbs went number 12 to the Lions. Okay, so I don't really think it's super duper egregious. But I'm like, you got to look at the production of a Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not that Jahmyr Gibbs splits carries and Bijan Robinson doesn't. They both split carries, right? With Bijan Robinson getting many more opportunities, the production is only 50 yards more. Right? So Bijan Robinson gets 50 more opportunities and his production is 50 more yards. Make that make sense. And we saw what Jahmyr Gibbs was doing when he was the only back when David Montgomery went out. Like, we saw the impact that Jahmyr Gibbs had. So I'm not really sure how, again, we're snubbing our Detroit Lion and putting Bijan Robinson above him. Okay? Let me know what y'all think about this in the chat. We know that wasn't the most egregious, and shout out Flannel Sam. Okay. And I felt like I needed to address this. And if Flannel sees it, obviously he'll understand what I'm saying. This isn't any shade or anything. This is just a rebut to his comment. So I was watching the Wake Up with Woodward morning show this morning, and Flannel Sam was talking about PFF's mindset. Like, what are they trying to do with these lists? Tactical Sport says, I don't think there's a running back in the NFL that should be rated higher than Gibbs. I know it's a hot take. That is a hot take, because I'm gonna go with Derrick Henry and Saquon. I actually think, and maybe it's my personal bias, Derrick Henry reminds me a lot of Bo Jackson, and I put Derrick Henry as the number one back. I think the only knock against Derrick Henry right now is his age, right? So you're wondering if he can continue it, and I've never counted him out. They don't call him King Henry for a reason. I mean, for nothing. So I've never counted Derrick Henry out. And when he went to Baltimore, people were talking about he was washed and everything. I was like, y'all better not disrespect that man. You better put some respect on his name. And we see what happened, right? After 1 year in Baltimore, the Ravens were like, all right, shut up and take my money, Derrick Henry. Okay, so they extended this man. He still got it. He's still crazy with it. Okay, and he's a freaking tank. You don't want to tackle him. You don't want to. Like, you will try to do it, but you don't want to do it. Okay, he's much like Bo Jackson. We about to get to that, Brian Ruth. Brian Ruth says, just like there's no safety as good as Kirby. All right. So again, getting back to what I was saying, Flannel Sam was trying to explain PFF's logic. And he was saying that the reason that they put Cooper DeJean and others over Kirby Joseph is because they're basically going, you know, if you came into the league and you hit the ground running, it is more valuable to us. You're higher on the list than a guy that took some time to develop. Granted, that makes sense if we're talking about not a Kyle Hamilton, because Kyle Hamilton came out of Notre Dame and he was that dude straight away. Who's another safety? So like Andrew Makuba, who was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles this year, okay, out of Texas. If he takes 3 years to come in and give you all pro, first team all pro in his third year, okay, that's cool. Cooper DeJean, first and foremost, has never given you first team all pro. So that's the crazy part, firstly, with this argument, is that, okay, it did take Kirby 3 years to give you first team all pro, but he's a first team all pro. First team all pro safety, right? So he's got to be top 1, 2, 3 in the league at free safety because he's first team all pro, right? The guy that was talking all that noise in Green Bay, who came over from New York, Xavier McKinney, and whenever he played the Lions, he was nowhere to be found. My man had no stats, right? I think he had a couple tackles in the second game. The first game, he had no stats. Talked all that noise. After the second game, he had nothing to say because he had no stats. He was not at all. Hold on. He was not at all a factor. Okay? He just wasn't. He did have one. They were kind of neck and neck as far as the interception lead, but Kirby Joseph came out on top. So Cooper DeJean had a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, Cooper DeJean also had a healthy defensive line in front of him the entire year. Cooper DeJean played so like many less snaps than Kirby Joseph. Okay. Now, getting back to my point, because again, I had to make that point because that's crazy that you're saying, okay, I'm giving you some grace because you came in and you hit the ground running. But if you came in and you hit the ground and became a first team All Pro, then I could say, all right, you could put him over Kirby. Okay, but he didn't, so you can't. The second piece is that when I talked about Andrew Makuba, I talked about Andrew Makuba because he was the first safety that popped into my mind that has been recently drafted. Andrew Makuba is a safety. I believe he went to, and someone can fact check me, and if I'm wrong, just remember that Andrew Makuba is random and he doesn't play for my team. Okay? So I may not know this about him, but I do believe that Andrew Makuba went to Texas as a safety, and he played safety for the 3-4 years that he was there. Kirby Joseph, and this is the main crux of the issue. This is the biggest part of the point. And this is why we say, okay, Flannel Sam was trying to talk about the logic of PFF and what their logic is. This is why their logic doesn't make any sense. You got to hit the ground running as a rookie. Kirby Joseph went to the University of Illinois as a wide receiver. As a wide receiver. He played 3 years at Illinois as a wide receiver. In his senior season at Illinois, he switched to safety. Then got drafted as a safety after 1 year of play at the position. 1 year in college. He got drafted in the 3rd round as a safety. After 3 years, he has the most interceptions as from a safety in the first 3 years of the career since Ed Reed. And he is a first team All-Pro. Your logic, PFF, makes no sense. He doesn't get any points for this. My man took 1 year of college at a position and was developed into a first team All-Pro safety within 3 years. And got the bag from his team that drafted him. Again, PFF, you make no sense. If that is the logic that you want to employ, by saying if you didn't hit the ground running when you came in, then you shouldn't be high on the list. I mean, a man that does that switches positions, plays 1 year that position in college, and then 3 years later, he is a damn first team All-Pro. What is your logic then? I would like to, at some point, and if anybody has any connections, okay, at some point I need to have one of these PFF people on my show because they're wild. They're wild with it. Okay, so Penei Sewell being number 1 on the list doesn't save the list. It's just the most intelligent thing that you could do. It's the most obvious pick. Penei Sewell, number 1 in the top 25 under 25. There is no other argument. There's no other player that you should be considering. That's just it. All right, let me see what y'all got in the chat. Saying that there's no safety as good as Kirby isn't as hot a take as saying Gibbs is the best back in the league. Saying he had 9 picks last year, I'd say it is. We should have had the first 5 spots on that list. 100. No, saying Kirby is the best safety is factual, not a hot take. Cooper didn't play with a practice squad. TaylorMade Media said didn't know that. And Brian Root says, amen, preach. You know, I'm just preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir. What up, though, TaylorMade? And what up, though, Brian Root? All right. So that's it for the list piece. Oh, well, actually, I mean, we sounded off about Kirby Joseph. The thing that I really don't like about the Kirby Joseph and the Brian Branch on the list is that, and I said this before, if you're saying that they are the best safety tandem in the NFL, You cannot have one at number 8 and the other one at 25. Right? Do y'all know Bucky Brooks? He does the quarterback rankings, and he calls it trailer or truck. Okay? He calls it trailer or truck. So what this means, if y'all don't know it, is the quarterback the trailer or is he the truck? If he's the truck, that means he's pulling his team. If he's the trailer, that means he's being pulled by his team. How the hell do you have a trailer and truck argument if you have a safety tandem, which is widely considered factually as the best tandem in the league? How is one of them a truck and the other one is a trailer? Because in this situation, you're telling me that Brian Branch is the truck and Kirby Joseph is the trailer. The first team All-Pro and the league leader in interceptions is the trailer? Was Brian Branch the first team All-Pro? And I'm not trying to diminish Brian Branch. That's crazy. I'm not doing that. But was he the first team All-Pro? Or was that Kirby Joseph? So with Kirby Joseph, like the first team All-Pro thing doesn't do anything. We're not talking about Pro Bowl. We're not saying, oh, Kirby Joseph went to the Pro Bowl, because he actually got snubbed for that. Right? We're not saying anything about the Pro Bowl. We're saying first team All-Pro. This is what the players care about. They don't care nothing about the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. And we know Kirby Joseph is not popular because he's dirty. Thank you, Matthew Stafford. Right? The guy that's not the first team All-Pro is number 8, but the guy that's the first team All-Pro just made the cut. He deserved to make the cut. As I said yesterday, the guy that makes the cut in the NFL roster, who just makes the cut when we have cut down day after training camp, is the first one to be cut when we bring in someone who's more talented for another team, from another team. It doesn't make sense. Brian Root says, I want to know how Laporta was ranked higher than Kirby. No idea. That's the thing. Kirby Joseph is a better player than Sam Laporta. Kirby Joseph is the first team All-Pro. He's number 1 at his position, right? Sam Laporta is very good. Sam Laporta did hit the ground running. Okay, if this is PFF's logic, Sam Laporta did hit the ground running. So that's how you say, okay, he's ranked over Kirby. But his year, so you're coming out with this list after the year that the people just had. Sam Laporta's year was considered a down year as far as production was concerned. And Kirby Joseph was a first team All-Pro at the end of the season. And the leader in interceptions. In the entire NFL. The whole one. Okay? All of it. We're not talking about bits and pieces of the NFL. We're not talking about just safeties. We're talking about everyone in the NFL who was eligible to get an interception. The entirety of the defense. Okay? That includes defensive ends. Shout out Hutch for still having more interceptions than Jeff Ohelnokuda. Still by 2. Jeff Ohelnokuda has 2 in his career. Hutch has 4. Hutch by trade is a defensive end. Jeff Ohelnokuda is some sort of cornerback. If you want to call him that, if you want to consider that. Okay. So everyone who has the ability, everyone on defense who had the ability to get interceptions, Kirby Joseph was the league leader. He had more than all of them. And this guy is the last person on the list. It's insane. It's really, really insane. You can't make it make sense. You cannot make it make sense. All right. So let's move off of the list because we have a bit of a spicy meatball. I might make a video out of this one, but let's see. Let me pull this up. Didn't one Mr. Kirby Joseph pick off Aaron twice in one game and send him to Cancun in his rookie season? He didn't just send him to Cancun. He sent him all the way to New York. Okay. This man was in Wisconsin and he went all the way to New York. He said, I got to get away from this Kirby Joseph guy. Okay, that's what happened. That's what happened. And that same game, a lot of people don't know this. That same game, Kirby Joseph became a father. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that Kirby Joseph became a father for the first time? I believe. I don't know if he has other children, but he became a father. All right, so we do have two things here. Let's see. Da, 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 da. I wanna find the exact information. Why do they keep trying to trade away Amik Robertson? What is it? What is the point of this? Oh yeah. So shout out to the Olympics. It says the Lions player likely to be tapped for the Olympic flag football is painfully clear. Yeah, that would be one Jahmyr Gibbs, like we already talked about. Okay. So it's not here. So I'll just have to get the tweet from Dan Graziano. Okay, because this is some very interesting information. Oh yeah, this one. I'm gonna talk about this one too. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some Fatty Matty Patty versus Darius Slay. These are never before heard details. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. Let's see. Okay, so I'll find it it's from Dan Graziano. Okay. So we've heard all of the stuff coming out. Brad Holmes said that he tried to trade up for an edge rusher. Brad Holmes has been he's been linked to Danielle Hunter. He's been linked to Max Crosby. He's been linked to Myles Garrett. And there have been various other attempts. But every time there's an attempt, the same thing happens. That it doesn't happen. It doesn't go through. Why it doesn't go through, I don't know. It takes two to tango, as we know. Everyone has to be willing to be on board. Everyone has to be willing to accept the terms of whatever trade is going to happen where we will move up and grab someone. Okay? TaylorMade, tell me what you didn't know, because I want to know what nuggets of knowledge I'm dropping on you that you didn't know. All right. So this is the thing that we're always getting. You know, Brad Holmes tried this, that, and the third thing. So we heard that he did try. Now, when he was at the podium talking about the Tyreek pick, right? He did say that he was getting nervous. Things were getting tight, right? This was the guy. He was the last one on their board. But there may have been a guy who was on the board that everyone told you. Everyone and their mother, except for me and except for Mel Kiper, actually. Okay. Everyone was saying that this guy was nowhere near the Lions draft board and it was never going to happen. Well, that may not have been the case. Per Dan Graziano, okay, and then I have an article here that is on Pro Football Rumors, okay. Lions tried to trade up for edge rusher. And Yeah, he became Aaron Rodgers' father that game. I wasn't saying that he had real children, but he became Aaron Rodgers' father that game when he picked him off twice and sent him to New York. All right. Let's see. All right, so Lions tried to trade up for edge rusher despite needing some depth on the edge. Heck, you're supposed to be going up, brother. Trying to zoom in on this and it wants to go down. Up is where I'm trying to zoom in. Thank you. Okay. All right, there we go. All right. Despite needing some depth on the edge, the Lions waited until the 6th round to address the position in last month's draft. That wasn't for a lack of trying. Detroit traded up twice on day 2, but general manager Brad Holmes said that he made several more attempts to move up throughout the draft. Okay, he said that. Jared Colucci, do you think the Lions have enough pass rush? Hell no. To the no. To the no. Okay. I'm one of the proponents of that. The Lions do not have enough pass rush. Okay. So that wasn't for a lack of trying. Detroit traded up twice on day 2, but general manager Brad Holmes said that he made several more attempts to move up throughout the draft. One of those potential trades was targeting an edge rusher in the 1st round. Okay. This is about to get good. Okay. I asked for shout out Woodward Heavyweights because I came across this information while I was watching their show before mine, but I didn't have all the information, so I wanted to find the article and go through it. But the clarification, I did get the clarification that it was specifically for an edge rusher. Okay. So one of those potential trades was targeting an edge rusher in the 1st round per ESPN's Dan Graziano. Though the deal fell through and the Lions stayed at number 28 to take Ohio State defensive tackle Tyleik Williams. You see how, like, whenever I see that name, I don't even, it's just oh hell no straight away. That's how my brain sees it. It does the other name that they go by. I don't even see it that way. It's unclear who Holmes' exact target would have been. Let's see. Okay. It's unclear who Holmes' exact target would have been. The draft's top edge rusher, Abdul Carter, was taken with the 3rd overall pick by the Giants, far out of the Lions' range. Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, and Shamar Stewart were all selected between the 11th and 17th picks. And the Falcons leaped the Lions and a dozen other teams to snag James Pierce Jr. at number 26. Okay. Now, more discernible is why Holmes didn't pull the trigger on a deal. Trading into the teens would have likely cost at least a 2nd rounder. A pick in the early 20s would have a more reasonable price. It's also possible that Detroit couldn't outbid Atlanta for the 26th pick. The Falcons have picked in the top 10 in 4 of the last 5 drafts and gave up a future 1st rounder in their deal with the Rams. The Lions' newfound success means they're unlikely to be drafting so high next year, making it hard to match the Falcons' offer even if they wanted to. Concerns about Pierce's drive and attitude also made him a questionable fit under Dan Campbell. Detroit then drafted Boise State's Ahmed Hassanin in the 7th round. I think it was the 6th round, but it says 7th, number 196. And signed undrafted free agent Keith Cooper Jr. out of Houston to bolster their edge room, though they could still use another reliable veteran. Okay, now, not mentioned in this article is that the Detroit Lions apparently tried to trade up with the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I believe the Los Angeles Chargers were picking number 22 because the Steelers were 21, right? So I believe they were picking number 22, and they stood pat. Instead of getting extra assets, they stood pat for a running back. I don't think that he was getting picked before number 28. And if you look at the draft order, none of those teams, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, took a running back. Okay. The Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, I think, were 23 and 24. They were not going to take a running back. The Texans, I think, were 25. They were not taking a running back. The Rams were 26. They were not taking a running back. I forget who was 27. The Ravens were 27. They were not taking a running back. So if that's the guy that you wanted, and Detroit says, hey, we'll trade up to get someone and we'll give you whatever package we're going to give you, you take those extra picks and you trade back to 28 and you grab Omarion there because wasn't nobody else going to take him. Now, here's the thing. If you're trading up to number 22, who was the edge rusher? It was James Pierce Jr. It wasn't Donovan Ezeraku. It wasn't any of the guys that went after that. You know why? Because they had the opportunity to grab them. You could have drafted Donovan Ezeraku at 28. You could have drafted Landon Jackson. You could have drafted any of these guys not named James Pierce Jr. The Detroit Lions tried to trade up to draft James Pierce Jr. Remember when Dan Campbell told you you could afford to have one knucklehead, right? You don't want to have a bunch of knuckleheads on your roster, but you could afford to have one knucklehead. Good point. We had one, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Big knucklehead. Okay? Big knucklehead, fighting with the team, made a public spectacle in the locker room talking about if he didn't get his starting job back when he came back, it was up. You know what I mean? If he is great and everything, but, you know, he ain't done nothing in the league. You know, just don't think his teammates liked him. Don't think he was beloved in the locker room. Right? He was a big energy guy. He brought something to the team. But all of these unsubstantiated claims. Now, they may be substantiated, but nothing has come out yet with people having their names on it and people telling you exactly what was wrong with James Pierce Jr. Questions about his murder, his motor, not questions about his murder. Okay, that was a slip. Okay, questions about his motor, questions about his attitude, whatever the case may be. The Lions tried to get him because that was the only guy. That was the only guy that you were trading up for. James Pierce Jr. came off the board, and nobody else came off the board after that in the first round. Jihad Campbell is a linebacker. He went 32 to the Eagles. So this person that the Lions were trying to trade up for, if this is true, is James Pierce Jr. Let me know what y'all have to say in the comments, and we will check you out next time. The Motor City Cats are back at it. Came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. We are out. Peace. Okay, I'm not leaving. I was just making a video. Okay. I was just making a video. All right. So what do y'all think? Let's see. Brian Root says when Tesla ends up the next Jordy Nelson, Brad's going to be Einstein once again. Maybe that kid from Boise State will be a great duo with Aiden. Okay, so if y'all don't know how I feel about this, I'll tell you how I feel about this. The fact that Ahmed Hassani was drafted in the 6th round means I don't expect anything. Okay? That is not me, because there are people out there who believe that means I'm rooting against him. No, it means he was drafted in the 6th round. I don't expect anything. Whatever he gives us, if it's anything, is a bonus to me. That is my take. If you are drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, whatever you do for the team is a bonus, right? And that means apart from what role we would expect you to have, if you were drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, we would expect you to be on special teams. That is the expectation. If we have any expectations for a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, or a 7th rounder, we expect them to be on special teams, right? You don't draft a guy in the 6th round expecting him to be something, and especially not immediately. If you're going, okay, we'll take Ahmed to do something at some point in time. Like, look at Broderick Martin. Broderick Martin, they didn't expect him to do anything. Okay? This is how I look at Ahmed Hassanin. The Broderick Martin, the problem with Broderick Martin is he was drafted in the 3rd round and we traded up. We traded assets to draft him. If you drafted Broderick Martin in the 6th round out of Western Kentucky, no one would care. You see the difference? It's just about draft position, right? Isaac Tesla has to be something. He must be, because you traded 2 third-round picks from next year. We don't have third-round picks anymore. He must be something, because now you've created expectations, just like you did for Broderick Martin. And with Broderick Martin having no stats, you're upset about the trade. If Broderick Martin turned out to be the next Albert Haynesworth without all the, problems, you'd love the trade and you'd love the pick. So Isaac Tesla now has to have some sort of impact, right? And you want to see it year one, even though it may not be realistic to believe that it will be year one. You want to see it year one. Why? Because there's expectations now. Ahmed Hassanin was drafted in the 6th round. There are no expectations. So I don't understand how, though. I understand he said he would die on the field and he just needed a chance and he just wanted you to believe in him and all this other stuff. That's good. That's cool. That's a cool story. It's all talk. And until you do something on the field as a Detroit Lion on defense, right? Like, he could have a highlight special teams play in the preseason where he just blows a man up on kickoff return. And everybody's going to project him to be the next Max Crosby. Okay? I just want y'all to curb y'all enthusiasm and temper your... Well, you don't have to curb your enthusiasm. Just temper your expectations. He's a 6th round pick. The most notable 6th round pick of all time is Tom Brady. But you know why he's so notable? Because he became the greatest of all time and he was drafted in the 6th round. If he became the greatest of all time and he was drafted number 1 overall, it wouldn't be that notable, right? You wouldn't have that extra piece onto his story. You wouldn't be like, man, this dude was drafted number 1 overall and turned out to be the greatest. Nah, because if he was drafted number 1 overall, you would expect that. You would expect it to happen, right? He's the greatest. Well, he was drafted number 1 overall. What do y'all think? Like, there's nothing crazy about Barry Sanders becoming the greatest running back ever. He was drafted number 3 overall, right? It's not crazy at all. It's crazy if you're looking at the draft position of Tom Brady, that he became the greatest ever because he was drafted in the 6th round. That's crazy. And that's a part of his story. Not only is he the greatest the greatest quarterback of all time, but do you know he was drafted in the 6th round? That plays. The other one doesn't play. Not only is he the greatest quarterback of all time, do you know he was drafted number 1 overall? That's expected, right? Jamarcus Russell You know why he's the biggest bust in NFL history? Because he was drafted number 1 overall. If he was drafted number 1 in round 7, no one would care. He wouldn't be considered the biggest bust in NFL history because he was drafted first pick of round 7. So this is my thing with Ahmed Hassanin or anybody else. As I said, James Houston, I didn't start paying attention to James Houston until he burst on the scene and had 8 sacks in 7 games. To me, he was a 6th round rookie. Yes, he had all the college production that I admittedly didn't know about until after. I wasn't interested in his story until after he gave me 8 sacks in the season as a rookie and only played in 7 games. That's when I started looking into his story. That's when I found out that he used to be at UF and then he transferred and all this other stuff and what Dion told him about how he would be successful in the NFL and all these things and having the 19 sacks. Like, that's when I really looked into him because he made the team and he did something spectacular. Am I making sense? Right? I'm not poo-pooing on the kid. I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Mike Green got screwed because some gold digger found out he was going to get paid. I think it was 2 gold diggers. So I don't know. You know, when it's 1, you're like, okay, it's a cash grab. When it's 2, you're like, he had to transfer schools, right? 0. So basically the first thing happened in high school, and that led to a 0 tolerance at Virginia. And then another one happened at Virginia. So he had to transfer. He had to leave. He wasn't going to be able to stay at Virginia. So I don't know. I don't know about Mike Green. Somebody said I was saying he went to the Shannon Sharp School of Journalism allegedly, and shout out Lisa DiLorenzo. She said he went to the Darren Sharper School of Dating. I was like, yeah, that's more relevant. Okay, that was more relevant. Jared Colucci said they should have took Jack Sawyer. Get out. Oh, I'd have been so heated. If they would have taken Jack Sawyer, I would have just turned the draft off. And yeah. I might. So Jack Sawyer might have gotten the Jeff O'Hell No Kuda treatment from me. Right? I was actively rooting against Jeff O'Hell No Kuda. I wanted him to fail. I wanted him off my team. And it wasn't simply because he went to Ohio State. It was because he was the number 3 overall pick and was garbage. Oh, he was garbage. Out the gate, he was trash. Out of the gate, he was garbaggio. So Jack Sawyer probably would have got the same treatment from me. So what you're telling me is that Brad was gaslighting us when he said he got his guy at the 28th by drafting a DT. I don't know if he was gaslighting us, but that was the last guy on his board. That's why I said, you know, the breathing was getting tight and all this other stuff, because that was the last guy. If he had nobody else on his board, then what do you do? Now, when he says... They're saying an edge, okay? I don't know where they specifically got the edge term from, but he tried to move up, apparently for an edge, right? So, I don't know. Still got a great DT. Brian Branch seemed to miss Gardner Johnson right away. You know, there were some people that like CJGJ. Do you think Aiden will be good to go by week 1? I do think he will be good to go by week 1. However, it's just the mental thing for him. I think physically he's fine, right? He's done with his rehab and everything. I just think it's the mental part. Ahmed is our next Ziggy Ansah. What round was Ziggy Ansah drafted in? Physically, Ziggy Ansah, what was he? He was more of a, he was closer to Marcus Davenport or Aiden Hutchinson. Ahmed is closer to Donovan Ezraku, who everyone said we weren't going to draft because he was too small. Tactical Sports says, but DT wasn't a huge need. Edge was and still is a huge need. Not to mention Brad all but told us we was crazy to think we needed an edge. I mean, I don't think Brad believes that. Right? I don't think he believes that we're crazy to need an edge. Because every time an edge rusher comes up, Brad is rumored to be in the mix all the time. So if he really believed that we were crazy to think that we needed to get an edge rusher, why does he keep picking up the phone and calling everybody? Why is he? I mean, and this stuff is leaked for a reason. Even if they just want it to be perceived that way, why do you need it to be perceived that way? Right? Why do you need it to be perceived that way if you don't think it is? If you don't think it's a need? I don't know. Brian Roos says Martin is hot garbage. We got a tough schedule. We do. We'll get comp thirds next year after we win the Super Bowl and get half our coaching staff stole again. So we win the Super Bowl next year. No one cares. No one cares about a third round pick. If we win the Super Bowl next year, I don't care who you draft. You know, I'll cover the draft just because I'm a Lions creator, right? I'm gonna be up in there like, I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. We don't care. I don't think Ahmed will be a Pro Bowler, but I do think he can beat to Hutch what Za'Darius was for Myles Garrett. I don't. Not year one, right? Not year one. Maybe year three, right? Maybe after some development. Remember, he's only played the game 5 years. Brock Purdy was the last kid picked in whatever draft he was in. Yep, Mr. Irrelevant. Do you think St. Brown will be wide receiver 1 and Jameson Williams wide receiver 2? Yeah, that's the dynamic of the team already. Jameson, now, what Johnny Moe has said is that he wants to take more deep shots. He wants more explosives down the field with J-Mo. So because if that happens, if we're able to connect on those, if we're able to scheme them, not scheme them open, but scheme them one-on-one, right? Because he's going to get himself open, but we need to have one-on-one coverage. We don't need, if we can get bracket coverage off of the top of Jameson Williams, then I think that his yardage numbers will go way up, right? If we can consistently do that at least once or twice a game, right? And he's getting, your 50, 60, 70, 80-yard bomb, very, very frequently, then I think his yardage numbers will go closer to 1,500. But as far as the amount of targets, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to have the number one receiver targets throughout the year. Do you think you didn't know it was 2? Yeah. Jack Sawyer is already at his ceiling. Yes. I still kind of wish we'd have traded out of the first. I don't know if we trade out of the first, then I don't know. Who do we pick up if we trade out of the first? Because we got Tate Ratledge in the second. We had opportunities to get other guys. Oh, you say he didn't know it was two accusations. Yes, he had 2 accusations. And that's why he fell down the draft board so much, because teams didn't believe him. He needed more people. We don't believe you. You need more people. Ziggy was long and lanky. Pause. Only way Davenport makes the playoffs healthy is if he doesn't see the field till December. I agree with you. Unfortunately, that is the way that we are looking right now. Since you brought up Broderick Martin, don't think he makes the team. It wouldn't surprise me. They finally gave up on James Mitchell. How many years did it take? What up, those salty pork chops? J-Mo's cracking 1,200 at least this year. Easily, I believe he does. 10 TDs. Easily, I think. Do you think the OC and DC will make us lose some games? I can't say that I think that they'll make us lose some games because I don't know what their situational football is like. I am more confident in Coach Shep because he was at sometimes running the defense. Like when you saw Aaron Glenn sit down and put his leg up and he's chilling on the bench, Coach Shep was running the defense, at that point in the game and for the rest of the game. He ran meetings. So they groomed him to be this. And he also has a spotter, right? If you listen to his press conference, he has a spotter. I forget the guy's name, but basically he said this is the guy that's very, very important and very integral in game planning and things of this nature. And he has, he's going to help him cover his blind spots. So he'll see the things that Coach Shep doesn't see. And then you've got Casey Rogers. I think he's very insulated with his staff. He's got a lot of guys that have done it before. He's got guys that have been defensive coordinators before. They have play calling experience on the defense. So I think if they're able to work together very cohesively, then there shouldn't be any issues with him. Johnny Moe, again, he was here when we crafted this offense. So he knows the offense. He knows Jared Goff. He knows some of the players. I just don't know what his in-game situationals will be. But I think, again, he will be insulated because the situational will be Dan Campbell, right? So if Dan Campbell looks at something that's like, yeah, we need a run here, he's just going to dial up a run, whatever it is. If we need a pass here, he's going to dial up the pass, right? So I don't think he's going to have complete autonomy and Dan Campbell is just going to sit around and be like, do what you want to do. So I don't think that they will. I know it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I don't think that they will lose us games per se. Tactical Sport, Jay-Z, hashtag the takeover. Right. We don't believe you. You need more people. Mike Green. I think we'll be better off with Morton because he seems smart enough to have J-Mo play not to have J-Mo play QB in the most important game of the year. I'm going to tell you why that was stupid. The reason that was stupid is because there was no element of surprise. I get that he was trying to surprise someone, but you can't surprise anyone when you run the exact same play the drive before and you scored on it. And then you try to give them the exact same look as if they're not going to be ready for something. Like you don't run a reverse in back-to-back possessions when you scored on one before and think that the defense is not going to stay home. The reason that you run a reverse is because you want to get the defense going to one side of the field and you hit backside and you got a guy that runs a 4.1 40 and he's going to outrun everyone. If they then see another reverse right after, they're going to keep contained. You're not going to have anybody that's not their backside. So now they're watching everything, and it was very slow developing. It was just a terrible play call, right? So J-Mo playing quarterback wasn't exactly the dumbest thing about that. It was just everything that happened. Again, that's what I mean by situational football. He could not have understood the situation. You just gave them the same look and you scored off of it. So now they're not going to move as quickly to one side when they see a reverse. They're going to stay home. And when you got people staying home, if you were trying to get a trick play happening where someone streaked across the formation and was going to be wide open so J-Mo could hit him with it, that wasn't the time to do that. That was the most maddening part about that. That was the dumb part. Salty Pork Chop says, do you think that MCDC goes for it less this year because he doesn't have a brainiac like Ben Johnson? I think we see a lot less fourth and go for it and more kicking. I don't know. Because again, that first turnover was the brainiac Ben Johnson going 5 wide on 3rd and 1. I mean, sure, we were going to go for it on 4th if we didn't get it. But 5 wide on 3rd and 1 wasn't the greatest outcome. Now, me and Tactical Sport have gone back and forth about this. I'm saying it's a bad outcome because the play didn't work. Right? Fundamentally, you probably shouldn't do that. Right? Why spread out 5 wide and just pick up the 1 yard? And then if you want to spread out 5 wide on 1st and 10, go for it. Just pick up the 1 yard. There's so many things that could go wrong. You could get sacked. Now it's 4th and 10 or 4th and 5, 4th and 7. And then you're not going for it at that point. So there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. And the worst thing went wrong. We turned the football over. Instead of going up 14-3, it was still 7-3. And then we turned around and gave up a touchdown. So I'm just praying we stick to the run game more often than we have been. I think we will. I think so. Again, Johnny Moe said his philosophy is to minimize the turnovers. The thing with Jared Goff, and I say this all the time, is it's the punches and bunches. And I explain it this way. When Jared Goff throws a pick, he's eager to fix his mistake. So he'll get back in there and he'll take chances. And because Ben Johnson would just have him let's just get back on the horse. You fell off of it. Let's get back on it. Let's sling it down the field. Because Ben Johnson would do that, I think that would allow for 1, 2, 3, even 4 more interceptions, like as you saw in the Texans game. I think what Johnny Moe is going to do is, okay, Jared, you can throw a pick. We're fine. We can survive 1, right? The Commanders game, we probably could have survived 3, but 5 turnovers, no. 3, we probably would have beat them by 3 points. 2, we probably would have beat them by 14. 1, we probably would have beat them by 20 plus. Because the same thing that was going to happen that happened in the Eagles game was about to happen with us. I said in the Eagles game, I said they go up 14-3, the game's over, and it was done. They went up 14-3 and the floodgates open. And they put up 50 on them. Right? I believe a similar thing would have happened with us. Now, we may not have put up 50. We may have put up 45. But I think that would have been similar. So what I do believe is that Johnny Moe will say, okay, let's give you a series off. Right? Let's give you a series off. Let's hit Jameer and David. And let you just, okay, get out of your head. Get out of thinking that you just got to get it right back. And I think that's how you're going to see things, because 1 interception, 1 turnover, that's fine. We can overcome that. Okay. And especially with everyone being healthy, hopefully. Again, Aleem McNeil's not going to be healthy until maybe Thanksgiving. Right. I believe that with everyone healthy, especially, you can withstand 1 turnover here or there. But the multiples, that's going to hurt us. So I think he's going to take the ball out of his hands and feed the run when we see things like that. So I do believe we're going to stick to the run. Osama bin Johnson won more than he lost. That's true. Not gonna argue that one. Think we have less go for it on fourth. We had a kicker last year. Got the same kicker. So again, you can't really change your identity. I'm thinking like, okay, certain games like the Eagles game and the Ravens game, I'm like, you just got to take the points. But when does Dan Campbell do that? Dan Campbell will be in a playoff game and not just take the points. So I think that's his identity. I think that's the identity of the team. He's been saying, and the players have been saying, we like the fact that our coach has the trust in us to go on fourth. Right? So now what are you saying? What is your message to the team? I don't trust you guys anymore. Yeah, I don't think it's going to change, because that's a whole dynamic. The players expect to go for it on fourth because they know that the coach has trust in them. If we're not going to go for it on fourth anymore, damn coach, did you lose trust in us? I don't think you want to mess with that dynamic, right? So I don't think that that's going to happen. Brian Root says that's the Favre in golf. What up, though, Justin fan? Does Dan have to stop going for it on fourth down? No. That's what I was just explaining. I want to see some lower scoring games this year. This defense can help Goff by not making him feel like he has to outscore everyone. I mean, if we turn Jahmyr Gibbs loose, we might be high flying, high scoring anyway. I don't think we're gonna see lower scoring games because, again, Johnny Mo has said he wants more explosives. So if you want more explosives are gonna give you more opportunities to score, right? You hit J-Mo down the field and he goes 80 yards for a touchdown in one play, you're off the field and the defense is back on there, and then you're back on the field with the offense shortly thereafter. So I don't think that's in the offing. I won't bash Johnson. He's been the best OC the Lions have had in 20 years. The only reason we bash him is because he went to the Bears. That's all. Like, we love AG, and we wish him well in New York, in the AFC with the Jets. If we have to see him in a Super Bowl, which probably won't happen because I don't think the Jets are going to get there, right? Then obviously, our rooting interests are purely for Detroit. But because that guy stayed in the division and then went over there and was swallowing Caleb's meat, pause, like, whatever. He's dead to us. Joe Lombardi was awful. Tactical sport. Salty pork. Joe Lombardi was ass. You hear me? Ass. Joe Lombardi is the reason we picked Eric Ebron. Because he had to have his Jimmy Graham. Joe Lombardi was ass. There's nothing ever good to say about Joe Lombardi. Stop that. Okay, lower scores from other teams. Yes, lower scores from other teams is always great. Definitely have that. That's what we want. Bro, no, they weren't all ass. Joe Lombardi, ass. Jim Bob Cooter was good for like half a season. Scott Linehan, the problem with Scott Linehan? The problem with Scott Linehan is he kept trying to take Ferraris through the woods. That's the thing that pissed me off about him. We would have a Javid Best. Now, Reggie Bush did put on some pounds when he came to Detroit. He was a little bit more stocky. But you take Javid Best and you just try to take him through the woods. It's like he's a Ferrari, man. Take him on the streets outside. But he did have that, again, that's that iconic moment. 80 yards straight up the middle against the Bears on Monday Night Football, blew the roof off of Ford Field. right? But, you know, with Scott Linehan, first down, you're just going to smash up the middle with whatever running back you had, whether it was the one that should be going up the middle or the one that shouldn't be going up the middle. So he was just committed to every time. You always knew it. First down, run into the back of the center. Get a yard, lose a yard, whatever. It wasn't going to pop. Now you're 2nd and 10. That was Scott Linehan's problem. He's the shiniest turd of them all. See, with that turd comes Eric Ebron. So no. No. How many wins do you suggest? 12 or 13? I can see a path where they go 15-2. I think when I did my projection, I did pick them to go 15-2 again. But I could concede 13. You know what I mean? But 15-2 would require them to sweep the division again and only lose to the Ravens and the Eagles. BJ inked the contract so fast he was not 100% thinking about the Lions. No way. Yeah, he said he was putting his staff together and all this other stuff and reaching out to Dennis Allen while they were in the playoffs and these things. But did he have to jump to the Bears? This is the thing. Did he have to jump to a team within the division? Maybe he's a sleeper cell, right? We do call him a terrorist, so maybe he's a sleeper cell. Maybe he's going over to Chicago so he can screw it all up and set them back even further. Maybe he's going to try to pull a Rich Rod at Michigan and set the team back 15 years. Maybe that's the case. But if the Bears mess around and get Trey Hendrickson, I don't think that's the case. So the win total to me, it doesn't matter as long as it's a win total that gets them into the playoffs. Right? If you've got one of those situations where you're 10-7 and you miss the playoffs, then I'm pissed. Right? Then I'm pissed. Oh, there was another list. I forget the chick's name. Was it? I think maybe Judy Batista or something. She had a list of the most vulnerable division champions, the most or the least vulnerable, and the Lions were number 1 vulnerable, and the Bills were the last at number 8. So she doesn't think that the Lions are going to repeat for the 3rd time as champions of the NFC North. And I ask, here's the thing. People are looking at the Bears offseason. The Bears always win the offseason. Never the season. Right? So if you don't think the Lions are going to win the NFC North, because it ain't going to be the Packers, okay? They showed last year that they were fraudulent. It's not going to be the Vikings because they've got a rookie quarterback and we have no idea who they are, and they can't beat the Lions. Brian Flores cannot figure out how to stop Jared Goff. Then you got to be looking at the Bears. And I'm like, we don't even know if Ben Johnson can be a head coach. Okay? Remember Mark Trestman? Y'all remember Mark Trestman? He was the smartest guy in the room. He was the this, that, and the third. Oh, speaking of smartest guy in the room, I got to get to this. I was gonna get off, but I got to get to this. And this is probably going to be another video. No, so division champs does matter because it's a guaranteed entry into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm caring about. If we win our division, we're automatically in the playoffs. There is no hand wringing, right? So if you're saying 10, 11 games, right? Remember this part. If you're saying 10, 11 games, 10, 11 games could have you on the outside looking in. Okay? But if you're 10, 11 games and the division champion, then you're in the playoffs. That's the only reason we care about winning the division, because it's an automatic entry into the playoffs. Automatic. We don't have to be worrying about the chase. We don't have to be worrying about the wild card. We don't have to be worrying about the last playoff spot. None of that stuff. If you're projecting them to have a 4 or 5 game decline in the victory column, okay, then you want to make sure that they win the division. All right. So let me get this article before I get out of here. Okay. So we have an article from Mike Payton on A to Z Sports. Now, y'all know Mike Payton. Mike Payton of JMO is going to get traded fame. That same Mike Payton. He stirs the pot quite often. He's got hot takes going here and there. And then he gets on Twitter and can't understand why he has the hate that he has. And then he has to backtrack. But this is going to get him into the good graces of the Detroit Lions fans. And I don't think anybody is going to hate on him for this. He's bringing us never before heard details of the Fatty Matty Patty Darius Slay feud. Okay. So it says never before heard details drop on what started the infamous Lions beef between Darius Slay and Matt Patricia. Okay. All right. Strap in, buckle up. It's going to be a doozy. Okay. If I can zoom in here. I don't know why my... Okay, here we go. One more. Okay. All right. In 2018, the Detroit Lions hired former New England Patriots defensive coordinator Fatty Matty Patty to be their head coach. At the time, the Lions were coming off a 9-7 season, and he was supposed to be the guy who took the team to the next step. He was instead the NFL's version of Thanos. He came in and snapped his fingers, and half the players you loved were gone, and the team was destroyed. The big one that was so incomprehensible for so long was Darius Slay. How could you trade an all-pro corner like that? We've always known that there was a beef between Patricia and Slay, but we never really knew what that was about until now. Former Lions fullback Jason Cabinda had former Lions cornerback Amani Oruwariye on his YouTube show, The Fairway Huddle, this week. Cabinda detailed exactly how things went down during joint practices with the New York Giants ahead of the 2018 season. Odell Beckham Jr. was getting the better of Slay during practices, and we came into that team meeting room, and after the practice, Slay was chopping it up with Odell. They're taking pictures and all that type of stuff. Matty P is trying to drive expletive culture and being hard-nosed and hard-headed as expletive everybody. Okay. Now you can imagine what the expletives were. Okay. I don't know exactly what they were. There's probably some F's and some S's, but here we go. That was his vibe. And Matty P didn't like that they were shaking hands, taking pictures after and stuff. But Matty P comes in and makes up a little compilation of the routes that Odell beat Slay on and was showing it in the team meeting room with the pointer. So Slay was getting cooked by Odell, and after he finishes showing the plays with an expletive laser pointer, okay, I know what that one is. He's like, "This is your best friend? This is your guy?" Basically challenging him. Why are you shaking hands with this guy after? That's the enemy type of vibe. And it was very much so an embarrassing tactic type of deal. Slay was not having that at all. That was for sure the worst way Matty P could have handled that. Now, I thought that these were details that we hadn't heard before. Maybe it was just the cut ups. Okay. All right. But Darius Slay has come out and said some vague version of that. And he said, basically, he told him to get that man's penis out of his mouth. Okay. He said that in front of the team. All right. But I guess it was the part where they were taking pictures after the practice and all this other stuff. And that was the details that we didn't know. But that is what that is. Okay. Kabinda also said that era was the most miserable 3 years of football in his entire life. Oruwariye talked about how Patricia ran practices so much differently than other teams in the league and felt that there was way too much conditioning, which led to injuries. Kabinda posted a clip of this on his Instagram, and multiple former Lions commented on it. The notable player was Quandre Diggs. He said that after that happened, Patricia lost the entire locker room. Diggs was traded before Slay, and one of the reasons we always got is that Diggs wouldn't bend to Patricia's will and keep quiet. Looks like he had good reason to do that. Slay also commented on that post and explained that he and Patricia had squashed the beef in Philadelphia when the Eagles hired the former Lions coach in 2023. I'm guessing the beef squashing came from Patricia's side, and he did not wait for Darius Slay to come to him, because I'm pretty sure Darius Slay did not. I wouldn't have. But that was Fatty Matty Patty. He was an asshat. Good riddance to bad rubbish. So glad that we got that guy out of here. Now he's in the college ranks, but unfortunately he did get a national championship. So people like Salty Pork Chops, look what you have done. You've given Fatty Matty Patty something to hang his hat on. You should be ashamed of yourself. But that's what we have for this video. Appreciate you guys once again. Motor City Cats back at it. Came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace. All right, another video. You know what I'm saying? Got to get my cut ups in. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yeah, just a fan. I'm not going yet. I am going very soon though, because I got to get to work. Some crazy stuff going on around here, man. I'm just gonna say that the road works and the things that go on here are the worst I've ever seen. The time that they do things makes absolutely no sense. Their biggest goal is to stop traffic. Like, they just want to stop it. They don't want traffic. They don't want it moving. They just want you sitting in traffic. And they just do dumb stuff, like really, really stupid, dumb stuff that you're just like scratching your head as to like, why did you do this now? Like, why did you do this now? Like, there, for instance, Melbourne, Australia has been the second largest hub in the country after Sydney for quite some time. Do you know they started in 2024 construction on the airport to ease congestion? Why didn't you start that in 1994? Like, why did you start that last year? You've been, like, the airport's been busy. It's been busy. I don't know, man. I have no idea. All right, Chiefs toyed with the NFL a few years ago by winning just enough to get into playoffs and won the Super Bowl. But they won their division. That's the point. They win their division. They always win their division. When's the last time someone not named the Kansas City Chiefs won the AFC West? Salty Pork Shot says, I think the division is much closer than the fans think it is. All of the other teams in the division beefed up their lines to combat the Lions this offseason. 10-11 wins and 5-3 in the division wins. You only have 6 games in the division, so you can't go 5-3. There are four teams in the division, right? But you only play the other three teams. So it's gotta be out of six. Out of six. So 5-1 in the division would win it, yes. Okay. But if you've got three losses, that means you're 3-3. And that doesn't guarantee you a divisional win. So you got to make sure you win your division. Got to make sure you go at least 4-2. And then if you go 4-2, you also have to take care of business against the common opponents and things of this nature. So winning your division is the fastest way to the playoffs. It guarantees you a spot. Not winning your division while also winning 10 games or 11 games only, you could find yourself on the outside looking in. Let's see. Jared Colucci said should have never been a head coach for sure. He was terrible. Fatty Matty Patty. All right. If y'all have any more questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and get them in. I'll stick around for about 5 more minutes. Then I got to roll out because, like I said, because of dumb decisions by people, I was not able to do any work this morning. So I got to get back out on this road. Yeah, that sounds like El Paso, Texas. They added a median to the busiest street and added turns that don't go to anything. So naturally, everyone makes U-turns, and that just makes traffic worse. Yeah, that's just at some point it's like, what do you want to get out of this? And the funny thing, right? The funny thing is right across, well, I don't know how far it is, but Brisbane, right? In Brisbane, they have a public transportation system where all of the public transport is 50 cents. So when you have to go downtown, instead of wasting your gas, instead of driving around for hours looking for a place to park, you hop on a tram or a bus or a train for 50 cents. You go into town, you go to work, and then you take that same bus, tram, train home for 50 additional cents. You've spent $1 that day to get to work and home. $1. If you do this every day that is a work day, do you know how much you spend per month? $20. Right? $20. You know how much you spend for a tank of gas here? $80. One-fourth of a tank of gas for an entire month to get to work. Do you think people take this public transport? Yes, they do. Melbourne just announced a couple days ago that starting next year, people who are under 18 will be able to ride public transportation for free. (2015) was the last time AFC West team won that wasn't the Chiefs. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So that's what I mean. The Chiefs are going to win their division. They could play around all they want. Okay? They could play around all they want, but the Chiefs are going to win that division now. For sure. You know, don't think they won't, because they will. And I would avoid this street like the plague, but it's one of 2 streets that will get me home. Yeah, that generally does it. That generally does it. I just ran out of recording space, so glad that I got everything taken care of, all the videos and stuff, chopped them up. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, y'all. Appreciate y'all once again for coming through, hanging out, stopping by. Again, Y'all can get in the Discord now. Y'all can talk in there. I will get the notifications. I had all of my notifications turned off because of being in an AI server back in the day, and my Discord was just popping off all day long. So I had to turn off the notifications so I could get some, so I could stop being bothered. But yeah, I've turned them back on. So make sure y'all are in there talking, chatting, sharing articles. You know, we're into the silly season, so you get your get your whatchamacallit, show topics in there, all this other stuff. But that's it. Do the Lions have any primetime games? Yes, they do. I think they have 4. Don't quote me on that. I have to look at the schedule again. But yeah, that's the thing. Just put it in the Discord. All right, guys. Once again, Motor City Cats are back at it. We came to give you stats and not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic, and we are out. Peace.